What do you do? The difficulty is that how can the state authorise that, allow you to take whatever measures you need? I mean, do we end up like the United States? We all have the right to arm.
It's like a burglar coming into your house. I mean, there have been all sorts of...
Well, I mean, you know what you would do instinctively.
Yeah.
If they went for your children, you know what you'd do. You'd grab whatever you could and you'd hit them, wouldn't you, Jim?
Yeah, instinctively you would.
You would.
And you've seen that some of those shopkeepers...
I mean, we've just talked about teachers, you know. We're talking about your family, they're in your home.
Well, you've seen some of those shopkeepers grab the baseball bats and then you can see them hold off and think, I don't want to do this, but I'm brandishing this at you, hoping you'll go away.
Well, what do you do? It is really difficult. So, you know, I mean, I know they're recruiting more police officers. Hopefully there'll be more of a presence. But this is the difficulty. We're about to spend, another $1 billion building another prison to put all of these people in.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's some real issues here with crime, violence, and does it come from poverty? It does behove us to look more deeply into the policies behind how we're coping with all of these issues, because we are just dealing with the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff now, all right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the trouble, Steve, isn't it? If it continues to be a talk fest, not that I'm saying it necessarily will, maybe concrete things we haven't thought of will come out of today's meeting.
Well, no,
then, of course, more dairy owners get bashed.
Well, yeah, I mean, back in the 80s in Britain, the rhetoric from the Conservative Party used to be that we will be strong on crime and strong on the causes of crime. And obviously that translated to we will lock up criminals after they committed crimes. And as you say, mate, we need to do a bit more prevention. How do we stop people from doing this? Is it down to poverty? Is it down to a sense of, well, what the hell else am I going to do with my life? I might as well.
Is it because they haven't got other jobs to go to?
Quite possibly, but no one's addressing that. The answer is simply, well, after someone's held up a dairy, then we'll stick them in that fancy new prison that we just spent $1 billion on.
That's right.
How about spend it, as you say, spend the money on prevention?
Bitcoin, the daily Bitcoin discussion. This won't go on forever with us, and perhaps Bitcoin won't go on forever either. The section in the Marlborough Sound's being offered for sale for Bitcoin. They probably only need 10 Bitcoin to buy it. Now, the Chicago Board Options Exchange has become the first traditional exchange to offer Bitcoin futures. The short sellers haven't gotten there yet, says Joseph Borg, the director of the Alabama Securities Commission. He's also been talking about the risks people are taking trying to get on this train. And I'd like to tell you what he's talking about, but I can't at the moment. He did confirm that houses are being mortgaged and people are spending money to buy Bitcoin, putting it on their credit card. And in that interview, he used the phrase line of code. And I thought he had said line of coke. And in fact, if you're mortgaging your house to buy Bitcoins, it's not that far away. Do we remember 1987 and people mortgaging their houses and taking out loans?
So speculation is always dangerous. You should not invest large sums of money in anything you do not understand. So I won't be investing because I don't understand this. And all I know is that if I invest large sums of money in anything I don't understand, I lose money. So
it's a very good golden rule.
Yeah, it is. It's a pretty good rule.
Well,
I know law, so I spend a lot of time on that.
I couldn't agree more with what May said. Absolutely, yeah. It's speculation, and this it feels almost like a contract. It feels too good to be true.
So you're not tempted at all?
No.
I'm kicking myself.
No.
I didn't buy into it 10 years ago.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, that's all we've got time for. Tons more to talk about, but we've got tomorrow as well. May Chen, lovely to see you.
Nice to see you too, Jim. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, Steve McCabe.
Thank you very much. Merry Christmas to both of you.
And I think we'll see you just before Christmas on our last show. That's it for today. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. And John Campbell is standing by with Checkpoint.
Kia ora everyone, really busy program tonight. Thank you for joining us. The Democrats have taken Alabama, not a phrase that has been used for quarter of a century. We go there live as Trump's man loses a very Republican seat. Quite an extraordinary state of affairs. Also tonight, we reveal that at least 2 of the Indian students who were deported from New Zealand became parents while they were here. Immigration New Zealand officers recommended they should be allowed to stay. They weren't. What's going on here? CEO salaries in the public sector, the State Services Commissioner talks ceilings, and much, much more. Thank you for being with us on Checkpoint on RNZ. It's coming up to 5 o'clock.
RNZ News at 5. Kia ora, good afternoon. Ko Katrina Batanaho. 5 young people, the eldest 16 and the youngest 11, were involved in the abuse and killing of a kitten in Southland. A video that emerged yesterday showing the kitten being bashed to death with a stone has caused widespread outrage. Timothy Brown reports.
The 5 are being interviewed and referred to Invercargill's Youth Aid. Constable Chris Wakeland says 3 other kittens have been removed from the homes of one of them. He says the video has also sickened the police. Youth Aid means the offenders will likely avoid court, but face alternative action at the discretion of officers managing the case. This is Timothy Brown.
The Prime Minister says Australia is being overly sensitive about New Zealand's offer to take Manus Island refugees. In an interview on News Talk ZB yesterday, Australia's Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce suggested New Zealand mind its own business regarding this issue. Jacinda Ardern's renewal of a 2013 offer to take 150 refugees from Australia's offshore detention centres has so far been turned down. Asked this afternoon if Australia is being overly sensitive, Ms Ardern replied simply yes.
As far as I'm concerned, we made the offer. It remains on the table. That's that.
Jacinda Ardern says she hasn't raised the issue for weeks and is only talking about it because Australian politicians keep bringing it up. There's been a stunning upset in a US Senate election in the state of Alabama. In a contest widely seen as a referendum on Donald Trump's presidency, the Democratic Party candidate Doug Jones has narrowly beaten the Republican Roy Moore. Mr. Moore's campaign has been dogged by allegations of sexual misconduct toward teenagers in the 1980s. The BBC is reporting the result as a political earthquake for the Trump administration, given Alabama's traditional conservatism. While Republicans maintain control of both houses of Congress, Mr. Jones's victory cuts their Senate majority to 51 to 49, possibly making it harder for Mr. Trump to advance his policy agenda. The State Services Minister says some chief executives' pay increases cannot be justified when compared to what other New Zealanders get. The State Services Commissioner has told the boards of 3 Crown entities, ACC, TELAC and the Super Fund, that they've paid their CEOs over and above what was recommended, and their tenure may be at risk if they ignore future recommendations. The Minister, Chris Hipkins, says the increases need to be reined in.
New Zealanders are rightly concerned about the chief executive pay in the wider state sector. The government shares that concern, as does the State Services Commissioner, and that is definitely something that we are looking very closely at. I'm not convinced that the current regulatory and legal regime around chief executive pay is sufficient.
The State Services Minister, Chris Hipkins. The former Minister for Primary Industries says the new government's shake-up of the ministry is ludicrous and wasteful. 4 new entities, Fisheries New Zealand, Forestry New Zealand, Biosecurity New Zealand and the New Zealand Food Safety, are to be created by April. Nathan Guy says the government hasn't even defined what the problem is with MPI.
$41 billion of exports are generated from our farmers and growers, and MPI has a big role to play in that economic growth. And so in my view, they do a very good job, but this is ideologically driven. It won't achieve anything, in my view, and be extremely costly.
The National MP, Nathan Guy. The cost of upgrading 2 of the Navy's frigates has blown out again, this time by $140 million. The project, originally estimated to cost $374 million, will now cost $639 million.